So, all right, without further ado, I will introduce Nick. Nick has been working with CrushBank for the better part of a year and a half, Nick. And sort of free form here, I'm going to turn it over to you on everything that has been effective, everything that you've done that you've sort of leaned in on and has worked well, and everything you haven't, right? Everything that sort of you wish maybe we did day one, all those sort of things, so you can tell a little bit of a story. And it wouldn't hurt if you gave sort of 60 to 90-second backdrop on Visual Edge and sort of the corporate challenge that you guys faced before we started.
Yeah, so Visual Edge is a larger MSP out in the market. We are wholly owned by what is a legacy MFP copier company. So I came from one of our first acquisitions, just a true MSP based out of Indianapolis. We then purchased quite a few more and have been rolling out managed services in each of the copier MFP companies that we have. As Brian said, we started using CrushBank about 18 months ago. At that point in time, I had about 18 to 20 engineers on the service desk. We were just true, really 8 to 5 Monday through Friday. Typical on call on the weekends. At this point in time, in the last 18 months, I believe I have over 50 on the service desk, 30 out in my field services, and all 50 of those on the service desk have access and utilize CrushBank on a daily basis. It's becoming really, really important for us going forward with our 24/7, just due to engineers are used to, pinging each other in teams. Have you seen this before? Have you done this before? And the ability for CrushBank to go in, look at the ConnectWise data and start providing those results for them is becoming very, very key. I would say when we started with CrushBank, we listened to you guys, but I don't know that we followed what we should have done. I think we're in the same boat as many others. Engineers tend to not like change when it comes to what they're doing, but love change out in the market, as in new technologies and those type of things. So a couple of things we did to get them to start using the system. One was games. We ran 2 or 3 month-long just games inside that they would get bonuses, either individual or our teams based for them. Things like, hey, the most CrushBank searches in the month gets a $200 gift card, and then the next closest gets $100. We did a couple of those. Then we did, within the teams, and kind of put it on the team leads to manage those searches and make sure their engineers were doing it and bonus those managers on that. And once we started doing that, that's when we really start seeing the spike in the searches, the spike in the checkboxes or buttons for usable information, not usable information. I think the biggest thing that we wished we would have done straight out of the gate was listen to the synonyms. I think it's biting us a little bit right now. I'll use the SharePoint comment that I can't remember if it was Ben or David said a minute ago, that most of our guys write in shorthand. So when we're searching our ConnectWise data, we don't usually find SharePoint listed in there. It's usually listed as SP or intranet. So that's a big push for us this week and next to get those synonyms done, uploaded, so that helps our search results. Forcing the engineers to not utilize all the time the automated query when they open the ticket. I think we've seen many clients email us in with help and 15 exclamation points. That kind of thing's not going to get us a good response back from CrushBank, but taking the extra 2 seconds to type in what they really want to search and then up and down vote those results. The other thing that we're working on right now is changing our escalation procedure to match what CrushBank is saying. So before we escalate something, it's always been the case for us that the team lead was involved to make sure that we weren't just missing things. But going forward, as of I believe yesterday, engineers have to use CrushBank to see if they can find the information they need on their own. Again, this really ties into going 24/7, making sure that we're getting back to those clients as quickly as possible. And most of the information they need is in there, even if IT Glue isn't documented very well, which goes into one of the other features we talked about. We can usually find the information we need somewhere inside of ConnectWise data. One of the biggest things we did right out of the gate too was develop questionnaires in SharePoint, asking things like, hey, how many Google searches did you do this week? What issues are you having out of CrushBank, to try to pivot the thought process of the engineers, instead of just going and searching IT Glue for any information, not finding anything and escalating the ticket, to actually looking at the data they're given. And I think the biggest things that I'm excited about in the new things, there's that ticket classifier and ticket budgeter. I think I've talked to David, Ben, and Brian about that a lot, that being able to put averages on things like PC deployments and see what the outliers are and where we might need training from engineers, or where a ticket went awry that took too long, are really keys for us moving forward.
Yeah, it's kind of sorry to interrupt, Nick. It's kind of a new and interesting opportunity we didn't really talk too much about, where you're laying that data in there up front, and then you can start to measure people based on their performance. So it becomes, especially in like the remote work world that we live in right now, one of the questions we're often asked is, how do people are being efficient? How do you know that they're doing their job? And maybe someone you expect them to close 4 tickets a day, and maybe someone you expect them to close 8 tickets a day. But really, is that the right expectation? Because it's the person that closing 4 tickets a day, averaging 25% more time based on these this time average. And sure, this is data that you can get other ways, but sort of pre-feeding the ticket with it opens up so many opportunities, again, not just around reporting and training, but around workflow and alerting and reminders and just accountability, that I think it's a tremendous opportunity.
I agree.
I wanted to ask you a real quick question, Nick. So you mentioned the synonyms, which obviously I talked about and I'm very high on as well. And that there was a great example that people use SP instead of SharePoint. Just to kind of give everyone on the call an idea, and maybe just to get the juices flowing and thinking, like, how do you come up with a list of synonyms, and how can we work with you to help you build that? Because I think like one of the things that we do as CrushBank is we often tout how little effort there is to get up and running with the system, which is true. You set up a few API keys and we go to work and do all the heavy lifting. But the truth of the matter is, for a truly successful engagement, it does need to be a little bit more collaborative. So this is like kind of, again, me asking you for advice, but also to get everyone thinking, like, how do you think we can collectively do a better job of coming up with those list of synonyms rather, sorry.
I think for us, it was just, getting a meeting between my managers, my team leads, a couple of our key engineers out there, looking at the list and then developing what we use. Obviously, I can't do it on a daily basis. I'm not in the tickets like those guys are. So you really need to take that all the way down to that engineer level on what are they typing in and what do they expect to see. I'll go back to the SharePoint example. We, for some reason, use SP across the board. I don't know where it came from, who started it, but that's just kind of one of our internal things. So without that being in there, and really without me knowing it up until we started doing the synonyms that they were using that, I would have thought that just, hey, SharePoint would have been good enough. Like, everybody types it out, but not everybody does.
Yeah, it's funny, those things that become like innate in the culture at a company that's been around for a long time.
Yeah, so just sitting down, making the time to do it. I know if anybody else is like us in managed services, we're going 100 miles an hour, 20, 30 different directions at the same time, but you're only going to get out what you put in to CrushBank. So take the time to set it up right from the get-go, and you'll have a lot more success in the long run.
And I think that's a really good point that Nick made about getting the tech teams involved, because I think it's too often in this business, we go out to events, we go to IT Nation, we go to Exchange, we go wherever, and as managers, we find these cool systems, platforms, and tools. I'm not allowed to call CrushBank a tool, but we find all these cool systems and platforms, and we go back to the office and we say, here, you do this. And we don't give them ownership and accountability and partnership, quite frankly, on the journey. So I think it's really crucial to sit down and say, like, here's how we're going to make your life easier. Give me examples of things where you don't find, or give me examples of shortcuts or abbreviations that you guys use. So I think sort of extending that collaboration to all of your employees all the way down to like the frontline help desk, I think becomes really important and really powerful.
And I think it really leads into the carrot versus the stick scenario. I mean, a lot of times we're looking at tons of data. We're looking at their KPIs. How many tickets did they close? What's their average time on ticket? And kind of driving more with a stick. So we kind of took CrushBank as a carrot. If you guys can help us get this set up, get some of those KPIs to come down from where we're at, faster searching, quicker responses to the clients, we're going to make it beneficial for you with a gift card or a bonus, or order lunch to the office, whatever. And then tied that in with the questionnaires, making sure that they have a voice in what's going on, and that they understand what's going on. At the end of the day, if an engineer doesn't understand why they're doing something, giving their mindsets are in engineering, they're probably not going to do it, and they're going to kind of blow you off and move on to something else that they know why they're doing it.
Yep.
Nick, that's an awesome point. I think, it may sound obvious in retrospect, but we realize we're sort of, and David noted this, we're really working with like 3 different personas or different types of people at a client. There's an executive, they got one set of goals and challenges. There's a manager who's probably overwhelmed trying to deal with a whole bunch of stuff, right? And how do we make this compelling and impactful to them? And then there's obviously the users. And you want to give the managers, like you look at some of those best practices that Dave went through, the idea is to create some political capital for the managers, so that if you find that reverse lookup, for example, the long tail 60-minute plus scenario where you can say, hey, Steve, we just found here, like, here's, if you looked at this, I could have saved you 2 hours. And in saving you 2 hours, like, now what's in it for them? Like, where's the quality of experience, the quality of customer experience that they have, not just the metrics. So we try to help each level get what's in it for them. And the final comment on that is, like, we've got some pretty gratifying comments from end users where they say, okay, now I get why it's worth me putting better notes in. And it's kind of like maybe a final comment on this piece of it. Like, everyone knows full well that without something like CrushBank in place, those notes are only good for billing queries that come up in the future. Like, you can't find something 3 months ago, 3 weeks ago, 3 years ago. So as an engineer, it's sort of hard to be like, yeah, your boss yells at you and tells you to put it in, but full well it's never going to be leveraged again unless you personally remember it from a recurring issue. And that's why these Teams threads go all over the place. But if we can have a scenario where you can't escalate without going to CrushBank, that creates that trust where I'm going to get that data. Someone's already checked on it for me, and now it's actually worth my while to put a better note in there. And we've seen this from end users, because someone won't bother me at 4 o'clock on a Saturday or at 7 p.m. on a Tuesday or whatever it might be. And vice versa. I now have a positive impact on that as well. And like, the end of this whole goal is to create not only better KPIs for your customers and your internal profitability, but a better data quality set where you don't sit there and say, oh, we don't have good enough data to do something like this. Like, you build that data, you improve that data, and you empower those level 1s and level 2s. I think, like you're saying, Nick, to be part of improving that data with some of those no good data experiences and being part of better notes and all those sort of things. So hopefully that this exposes how you can help do that, and some of the things that Nick has done and frankly still wants to do in terms of even optimizing it going further. Any parting shots, Nick, that you want to sort of leave people with?
I don't think so. I think I'm good if you're good.
I do appreciate you taking some time to share, and obviously, as Nick went through this, he's like, yeah, there's stuff that we still want to implement here. So it is a process of continuing to make it worth everyone's while.